Thank you for joining us for another Clear Creek Golf Cart Leadership School. Today we are talking to Abby Hathcock, principal of Sequiota Elementary School in Springfield, Missouri, and also my wife.
Lucky me.
All right, so Abby, share with us
Yes.
your leadership journey so far. How did you get to where you're at?
Sure. From a lot of other people. I would probably start with my educational career. I got my undergrad at Missouri State, and from that, I started as a para. A sub, and then a para, and I was a classroom teacher for 10 years at Hickory Hills Middle School, where I taught 6th grade English. Fun times. And then that transition with getting my master's degree in servant leadership at Evangel during that teaching time frame. So then that shifted my scope from the classroom to a building, and being able to serve as an assistant principal at Bingham Elementary for 2 years. And this is my first year as Sequiota's principal this school year, where I also attended as a student kindergarten through 5th grade.
Right, yeah. So the house you grew up in is, if I could actually throw a rock very far, it's
That way.
there.
Yep.
Just like right over the playground, right?
We are sitting in my kindergarten classroom. This was actually the play kitchen area right around here. So I did centers over there.
That's awesome.
I know.
Okay, so when you applied for Sequiota,
Yes.
and when you got it, the hiring team, when you're telling me about this, said something that really jumped out to me.
Okay.
So is when we're looking to do this leadership school, I wanted to have you share that with us. And what they said was you were really, really good at building a positive culture and climate. So share with us, what is culture and climate, and why is that important?
Culture and climate is the overall vibe of a building, and it's kind of those things that are the spoken and unspoken things in a building, what that represents as a staff morale, if you will. So the building of relationships, what is really important about building relationships with others is listen first, speak or act second. That is something that I want to make sure, one, our staff is modeled to them, but also that is done to our students as well, because I think the overall sign of a good leader when it comes to running a building effectively, and I've seen this in past administrators I've had or had the chance to work with, is when you model to staff a genuine love for them and a genuine compassion for them, and being able to be relational and putting people first, they in turn do that for students. And if we're in charge of other people's kids all day, every day, if my babies were somewhere else, I would want someone to do that as well for them, to love them first, put them first, and being able to be compassionate towards them all the time. That's a really impactful way to lead others when you lead with the end goal in mind. For an educational building, it's student success, but you can't have student success without the teachers and staff feeling supported to do that.
So what are some, I know you've done different things here and at past schools you've been at. What are some really specific examples of how you've tried to build the culture, the climate of your school building?
It's twofold, if you will, maybe threefold. We'll see where this conversation takes us. But the first thing specifically is consistency. You do what you say what you mean, and you follow through. That is the one way to build straight up morale with anyone. If a teacher feels supported, when they don't, you've lost it. And so that is being consistent, follow through with, with next steps, being able to openly communicate with staff what's happening with students in the classroom, outside of the classroom, how that could maybe, bleed into not an educational world. I could see that more of not being secretive, being very open and transparent. That doesn't mean oversharing and over communicating things you can't, but just straight up being real with somebody and saying, hey, something's going on. I can't really let you know about it, but I really want your input. Or, hey, this is where we're headed and this is what we're doing. We want you to be a part of it. The transparency piece of when you can be transparent speaks volumes. Then that also helps to bridge the times when there are need to knows and there's need to not knows, because the weight of a leader does not need to be casted on the shoulders of a staff. There are things that I am asked and paid to do that other people are not, and that is not fair to them to disseminate information or responsibilities or burdens to them to be able to carry also.
Okay, so how can a organization like Clear Creek, how can we be really intentional about implementing a climate and culture, and maybe even tie this into an organization's mission, vision, and values?
The intentionality piece is big. The consistency is big. I also think when you look at just Sequiota's mission and vision, Sequiota will be a positive school family that is respectful, safe, and responsible to build a positive community. And those specific 3 things of being respectful, safe, and responsible, all actions we do in our building, student, staff, or otherwise, are all culminated on those 3 things. Every action we do is based on the 3 values we have of being respectful, safe, and responsible. With staff, same situation on how I discuss with them. In a respectful tone, what keeps them safe, what keeps all of us safe. How to be responsible with our time, with our energy, with our efforts that we put into kids' learning. That's also disseminated in how we address students and behavior. And also how we celebrate them for positive things. So for an outside organization who's not in education, you got to have the mission, vision, and values to be able to, and that something that you're genuinely passionate about, for it to be able to bleed into all areas. Something that can fit and suit every avenue and area of your organization.
Yes.
Is that going to answer your question?
Yeah, and I've noticed just being here in the building, seeing your mission statement and these values in different ways throughout the building, right?
It's visible. We talk about it on announcements, when we have conversations with friends that forget their way. It's all geared towards when we forget something, and we look to posters we have in the building of what it looks like to be respectful, safe, and responsible. We have students point to, now which one are we not being, and having them take ownership in that. But it's all reflective around respectful, safe, and responsible. And I think those key components are supposed to be a successful component for life when you are an adult and you have a job. And so I think then it also takes the guesswork out of things too. It doesn't become an emotional attachment in that, because sometimes people equate relational leadership, which is where I've been told or feel like I am strong in, and emotional. I mean, I am emotional. He can vouch for that. But there's a time where rubber meets the road. In relational does not mean emotional in the fact of, it is what it is and we don't throw a fit. I mean, sometimes it's just the way of the world. Of I love you so much, I won't let you act this way. And it also helps with just pointing back to the facts. If we're having trouble with someone not getting on board with our mission and vision, or with student, or specific things like, oh, friend, but if we look back of everything that we have decided to do, it all goes back to it, and it makes it less subjective. It makes it, and it also puts the thinking back on either staff or student of being reflective in their own practices of like, oh gosh, I wasn't respectful, safe, or responsible. Or me and myself as a leader, I have to say, gosh, I was not responsible or respectful in that regard, and being able to own up. And when you ask a person to do something, you need to be able and willing to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's good. So that kind of takes us to the traits of you as a leader. So as you're building other leaders up, as you're training and encouraging other leaders, what traits are you trying to build into them to continue building that climate and culture?
Well, I've been able to be modeled and invested in by a lot of people. I did not get to this place where I am at without a lot of help, support, and guidance from people that know a whole lot more things than I do. And I think that's what makes it so easy when you have a climate and culture that has complete buy-in of, yes, we want students that are respectful, safe, and responsible, or we want staff that are respectful, safe, and responsible. When we have that mentality and wherewithal of where we're going as a building or as an organization, it makes it super easy to be able to pull out those qualities. It makes it very easy for someone to see these things in others and be able to recognize it, because that is the genuine focus. you see things that are on your forefront. If it's not on your forefront, and I don't know, it's just like my mental capacity as a mom with young children and all the things we do in our life. If it's not on my forefront, I don't remember it. It's like out of sight, out of mind. And so that intentionality of having something to look at and visually see helps in creating ways to notice that in staff. Being able to do I notice statements a lot of times, and in other organizations too, but everyone wants to feel like you matter and that you are valued in an organization. And the best way to make someone feel that way is to acknowledge it. And so being able to see the things of I noticed you doing these things, whether that's in the lens of, respectful, safe, responsible, maybe another attribute that someone took the time to do something for a student that they didn't have to, or etc. But going out of your way to be intentional in finding ways to celebrate staff, handwritten note, text message, email, whatever, but making that personal connection of I value the things that you bring to this organization, and if we didn't have you, we would not have those things. There is, that equates value to a person, and there's nothing like really systematic or like logistical about it. It's just the way to treat people, just to be a nice human and honor people for doing the hard work that they do.
For as long as I've known you as a leader, whether it's at school or at church or any of the other organizations we've been a part of.
Yeah.
So through all this, I mean, I know what your inspiration is, but what has inspired you to continue to be a leader and take on these roles that are not easy? Because being a leader is not easy.
Yeah.
But it's you choose your hard. So what's inspired you to continue choosing to grow in leadership?
You do choose your hard. And the inspiration's going to be Jesus, because let's just be honest, loving people can be hard. And the unconditional love that you get to experience with a relationship with Jesus is pretty impactful. My job is to not force that on anyone in a leadership role, but in more of using it to fuel the passion that I have for people to be treated differently. People are very intuitive, and people know when someone is genuine and when they're not. And so I think the authenticity of a person, probably should answer that, but we'll just hold that for a minute. The authenticity of a person is genuinely seen by the character traits that they have. And there are many days that I fail and I don't do things right, and I know this. I think, but the sign of a good leader is to acknowledge that and to learn from it and grow from it, and being able to apply that and how you love, serve, and lead others well. It's a calling that comes from within. You have to be driven by it, or else it's not worth it. In all honesty, I don't mean that negatively. I just mean that very factually and very real. If you do not have the passion to be able to serve and love people well, genuinely mean it, and want the best outcome for all, leadership is not for you. I don't love everybody well all the time. There's many times where I fail in that, but every day's a new day. And we can find ways to make sure we love others and we're consistent with what we say and what we mean. Having intentionality and focus about what the values and mission are, and be able to lead a climate and culture to feel supported and safe and loved is kind of the goal. That's awesome. And again, I think you're right. That's more than just in an educational setting. Sure. That's any organization. It's just, well, the perception you have, is it a mission field? Is it a want to do, a have to do, a get to do? Do you find desire in what you do to be able to lift others up, or do you look at it as another task to cross off your to do? Like you said, choose your hard. Serving the public is a hard task. It's a hard task to be able to meet the needs of every different style and modality that comes along the way, but you choose your hard. What kind of hard do you want to have? And if you have it through the lens of finding opportunities and ways to celebrate other people, finding successes, know what's tolerated and what is not, communicating that to your staff so they are aware. If you don't coach something, you allow it. I'm a big proponent.
Yeah.
That's the one. I will advocate that all day. But if you don't coach it, you allow it. And so being able to coach up and train children to help support parents and what they've done and the work they've done with their students, their children, to grow them up the way they need to. If we don't coach it, we allow it. So if we're wanting to see respectful, safe, and responsible kids every day, we got to coach that. Yeah. And we have to also practice what we preach and being able to model. Kids know how to respect others when they are respected first. Also goes with adults. Any person knows how to respect somebody else when you model it yourself. And if you are not willing to do that, then my question would be you might not be willing to lead others, because that goes hand in hand. It's in tandem.
Yeah, that's really good. And that all this also goes back to what we talked about with Ethan. When I interviewed Ethan on the 9 traits of a virtuous business model or virtuous leader.
Yeah.
Awesome, babe. Thank you for doing this. I know
you're welcome.
We do our best to find time for extra fun stuff like this.
Well, it's delightful. Yeah. Able to help. Yeah. Hopefully this crosses over. I know education is kind of its own breed, but I think there's still there's things to glean from an educator, even if you're not an educator yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
you're welcome,
babe, for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And thank you again joining us for Clear Creek Leadership School, and thank you for your commitment to growing as a leader. We'll see you next time.
Probably that little section, you should take that out. I don't like anything I said there.
Your favorite thing to say to me when you were still a teacher was,
oh, well, what's that?
You don't understand. You're not a teacher.
You just scratch that from the record. Okay. Start completely over.
Okay.
Total crap. Moving on.
Okay.
It's legit true,
a lot
though,
of that
Trey.
is true. It's very
legit.
True.
Because if you're not either married to an educator or you haven't experienced yourself, you don't know.
You don't know.
You just don't know.
I'll start with a little intro.
This goes really against everything you've taught me to do whenever we've had an interview. You're never supposed to look at a camera.
Well, this is different.
Well, how is it different?
Just roll with it.
So, ask me the question again. But now you know.
But now we do.
We all know now.
Now we know a little bit more.
You're welcome.